Okay, hello. How we doing? So it's been a while since I've recorded one of these, and I can only hope that I say something useful or multiple useful things in this video. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. I generally don't plan these out, which is really funny to think about because there was a point in my career where I heavily scripted my videos, where I really heavily planned out what I was going to talk about, and then I completely abandoned that. Like, isn't that so funny? So there could be a message coming through for whoever's here about needing to be adaptable, needing to go with the flow. And obviously that's going to resonate differently for everybody. There's going to be different situations and all that jazz. But like, generally, being open to new ideas, new things is going to be your key to success. Also, we don't need to talk about how low-key breaking out a little bit, tiny bit. I think that life in general is pretty easy. Oh no, let me not say that. Pretty simple. It's not always easy, but it's pretty simple. You know, I feel like anything as a human, if you have mastered it, you should be able to like explain it to others, you know. And I don't know, maybe there's a teacher here, I don't know, but I'm just talking. Recently there's been a lot of shifts. I don't know if you've personally experienced these shifts or if you have heard about them, but like, astrologically we're in August and we're in Leo season still. And we did just pass, it was more than a week ago, but we did pass a pretty big astrological event. And I don't know, there's always something going on, there's always some sort of event or something happening. But if you have been feeling those shifts, if you have been feeling those turntables turning, it might be a really good idea to make extra time for stillness, make extra time for silence. I know even myself, sometimes I find myself listening to a lot of music. I find myself listening to a lot of content, not even just music, but just content in general. And sometimes I have to force myself to get out of that. And I decided to take a walk this morning. I've been doing that regularly the last week or so, or last couple weeks. I don't know what is time, right? But I've been making the point to take a walk. I'm a walker. And it definitely helps for those moments where I feel really like unmotivated, where I feel really like, you know, when I'm needing a shift in energy. I definitely believe in using travel, using location as a means to shake things up, you know. And speaking of shaking things up, I think it really sucks sometimes to be a knower, to just know things, you know, because there's a knowing that I've been sitting with. And as I'm tapped into that, as I'm talking about that, I already feel myself getting wobbly. But like, that's an interesting name. Oh, Blankenship. I knew somebody in middle school with the name. Anyways, there's a knowing, and if this resonates for you, I'm here to remind you that free will is a beautiful thing. You can do whatever you want. Like, whenever you get a reading from somebody, if they are an actual good reader, somebody who actually connects with like higher powers, like, most likely they will not tell you exactly what you should do or what you have to do, or, you know, like, it's very rare that you will get a message from an actually aligned person telling you what you should do, or telling you what you should or shouldn't do, or whatever. But when you ask specific questions, like, how do I become successful? How do I become a millionaire? How do I X, Y, and Z? And the message that comes up is something around something that you don't want to do. Free will. You don't have to do it. You don't have to take the advice. You don't have to take the guidance. But just understand that You know? Sorry, I just got really drained. I had to like, oh my goodness, because like, and I am still learning. I'm still, you know, sometimes when I give these messages, I'm also talking to myself in a different time. You know what I mean? But I think it's really complicated when you really love someone. I recently did a reading for somebody who was going through something similar like this, where it's like, it sucks when you really love someone, you really care about somebody, you really want something to work with somebody, but the energy just isn't there. You know, maybe they're too in their pride, maybe they are too comfortable with lying, etc., etc. And it's just like, I'm purposely being vague in case this person watches, because I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes, hold on, okay, I guess that's a message. Sometimes in life you will want so badly for things to work, for things to flourish, for things to progress. And sometimes you'll find, especially if you're a seeker, if you're somebody who asks heavy questions, you'll find sometimes that when you ask certain questions and you get heavy answers, sometimes you won't be able to progress until you follow the path of whatever the answer was. So, for example, if you ask a question and the answer is to meditate more, to rest more, you'll find a really hard time progressing until you actually take the advice. Obviously, free will, once again, you can do whatever you want. But, like, I don't know. I feel like there's a special energy that comes with people who have the ability to answer any given question. You know, because this is gonna sound crazy. I had a psychosis moment, like in the last year, where I thought I was an alien, and one of my abilities was to be able to answer any given question, which that is one of my abilities. I am a channeler. I am somebody who tunes in, and one thing about that is sometimes the answer is not what you want to hear. And you have no business getting a tarot reading, getting a psychic reading, if you are not open to new ways of thinking, if you're not open to new ways of seeing the world. Because 9 times out of 10, when you get a genuine psychic reading, when you get a genuine reading from someone, it is going to offer you perspectives that you didn't previously think of. Now, sometimes, I'd say half the time, maybe you'll get messages that are just confirmation for what you already know subconsciously, but a lot of times it'll cause you to think differently, you know? And if you're not open to that, that's fine. But don't get a reading then, you know? I think it's unfortunate, and maybe I'm biased because I have very little of these energies in my chart, but I think a lot of people exhibit fixed sign energy. Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. Shout out also to Leo people, I guess. But yeah, I think a lot of people in the world are very stubborn. They have a fixed way of looking at the world, and they just want to see the world that way. And you know, that's one thing if you can do that without like ruining other people's realities. But a lot of people stick so hard to their guns that they force other people to kind of bend to their whim. And I don't know, I feel like when you genuinely understand co-creation, when you genuinely understand coexistence, you know better than to... And I'm saying that also as a person who is making a video pushing their perspective onto people, but I don't know, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound biased or whatever, but because I was going to say some people just need to learn not to try to force their limited perspective onto others. And I believe very heavily that my perspective is very expansive, very abundant. Like I have a lot of different ways of looking at the world. And there's a little voice in my head that's like, you know, well, how do you know you're inherently right? Like just because you believe that your way of life is more fruitful. And I guess that's a good question, but it's like, I'm not a Christian, but it's like the same aspect of like being a Christian and following the Christian ideology. Like, the idea behind it is that when you follow Christ, you have a more fruitful life. And if I were to have a more fruitful life, then I would want to share that with others. And I think that's the difference, because I'm sharing my perspective in an attempt to motivate, inspire, uplift, elevate. And these other people, these stubborn people that I was mentioning, are sharing their perspective because that is their perspective and that is all they know. And, you know, and it's like, you can't force evolution. You can't force people to grow or ascend or whatever. But I just wish more people would like stay in their lane. It's like, if you choose to be a certain way and think a certain way, that's fine. But also don't try go connecting with people that are obviously thinking differently than you and try to change their mind, or, you know what I mean? Also, if I could real quick say thanks to the new people who have been subscribing, to the people who have been in my live streams. I appreciate you guys. I hope that you enjoy your time with me. And if you're over the age of 18, if you would like a psychic reading, if you would like me to read your energy, tap into your energy, and give you advice based off of what I see, hit me up. There should be some links down below if you want to check that out. Remember to stay hydrated, drink lots of water, and make time for stillness. Stay prayed up. Deuces. Bye.